want to give you a brief background of who I am. I born in Alexandria, Egypt, to a Coptic Christian family. Moved to Canada when we were like around 7, and grew up in Canada, moved to California, and met my first husband, Paul, who it didn't take long to realize that he was a narcissist who basically crushed my spirit. It took about 13 years, and finally I was able to get a restraining order and get out. I had 2 beautiful children, Colleen and Andrew, but we finally got out. And then I met my second husband, and believe it or not, he was the love of my life when I was young. And he found me, and we did get married, and we were happy together for about 9 years. Everything looked good. I supported him. He took care of me. I was such a financial officer. We ended up, as the years passed, I guess things went wrong, and we decided to have an amicable divorce. We agreed on that, and we filed it. And the amicable divorce meant in 6 months, if no one disputes it, we both go our separate ways. When we did that, he asked to stay in the house for about 3 weeks until he gets a place. And I didn't want to kick him out since I was the one supporting, and I agreed for him to stay in the house. It didn't take long, but a few days, that I started feeling sick. My whole body was aching. And I thought I didn't know what it was. I begged him to take me to urgent care. He did, and he finally did. And then there they thought I'm coming down with the flu. They gave me something to take and send me home. But my headaches were so severe that I could not blink without excruciating pain. It was January 8th, 2008. As I'm driving on the freeway, I get a vision. And I've never had a vision before, so this is not something common, but I had a vision, and I'm seeing my family, my immediate family, brothers and sisters, and there's a funeral. There is someone that died. And I didn't see my younger brother, Steve, who was born mentally handicapped, and I assumed it was him. And I thought this was a warning from God that something's going to happen to him. He was living in Egypt at the time with my other brother, and I wanted to go and see him, thinking that he's going to die soon. So as soon as I went in the office, I made arrangement to fly out. It was a Friday, so I told them I'll either fly out Saturday or Sunday. And I pulled my staff, met with the whole team, was delegating jobs to them so that I can follow up. I told them I will take my computer and do everything over there. Anyway, as the meeting was progressing, my head was now, the pain was progressing. And I was sitting at my desk, holding my head so that my head doesn't explode. That's how bad it was. I was feeling my head is going to explode. And as I'm holding my head like that, I get a message to leave everything and stop thinking and just go. So out of nowhere, I just looked at everybody and I said, okay, you guys, I can't do this. I have to go, but let's meet tomorrow. And then I'll give you guys instructions. And I walked out and I left the office. I drove away, got to my place. As I'm walking up to my condominium, I hear a voice speaking to me. Now, speaking to me clear, like I'm speaking to you now, just a definitive voice. And I recognized right away that the voice was the Holy Spirit. I don't know how I recognized. I've never related to the Holy Spirit. I always related to Jesus, to God the Father, but I never got the Holy Spirit. I didn't understand him. And I just thought he's just like we always think about him as a dove or bird flying all over the place, but not a being, not something. So I ignored him. Yet he was speaking to me clearly, but he said for me to shut my mouth. So whatever he's revealing, I'm to shut my mouth. And it was like, oh my God, I want to tell the whole world the Holy Spirit is talking to me, but my mouth was shut. I continued walking up to my place. I knocked at the door. My husband, Sam, opened the door. And his first question was, are you, because I had called him from the office. I told him, I have to go to Egypt. My brother is sick. And I told him that I was trying to get tickets. So right away he asked me, are you leaving tomorrow or Sunday? And I said, I don't know. I can't think right now. I'll let you know tomorrow. Colleen was living with us. She came out, kissed me, hugged me. Mom, are you okay? I said, yes, Habibi, I'm just tired. She went back in her room. She was about 14 years old. And I went to change, came back with my comfortable clothes. I usually always change as soon as I get in the house, and walked to the kitchen. And still the Holy Spirit is speaking to me. I'm kind of not sure what's going on, but I stand there with my back to the fridge. I was just absolutely no appetite, and I'm thinking twice about it to skip my meal. And then the Holy Spirit says, child, turn around, open the fridge, and get some yogurt, plain yogurt, and put it on your rice. Now, plain yogurt is the way we eat our rice in Egypt. Like I love eating rice with just plain yogurt. But when he told me that, it was like, come again? What? You care about the yogurt on my rice? Like it was such a trivial thing. And he said, child, I'm in every little detail of your life. And when he said that, I felt like a fool. It was like a real ashamed of myself. But I put the yogurt, went and sat down and started eating. And he continued talking to me. And what I remember, he even cracked a joke and it made me laugh. I giggled. I finished my rice and yogurt and I walked, and I ended up going into bed. And after saying goodbye to Colleen, and I went to brush my teeth, and still confused as why is the Holy Spirit speaking to me, not understanding what's happening. I went into bed and I lied down, just wondering all these questions. What's happening? What's going on? And he goes, child, it's not your brother, it's you. And Ed, when he said that, my heart was so heavy. I was not ready to hear that I was going to die, that it was me. I went to bed thinking I'm going to wake up next day. I think most of us, we go to bed, we don't think we're not going to wake up. But I wasn't ready. It was such a heavy feeling because all I can think about is Colleen is going to wake up and find her mother dead in bed. And that broke my heart. I just couldn't imagine how the pain she was going to feel. And I was so sad and kind of like resisting, no, that can't be. And then he reminded me of a dream that I had had several years ago. And in that dream, Jesus was walking. I think it's the only time I've ever dreamed of Jesus. He was walking in the meadows with my son Andrew on one side, Colleen on the other side, and I am with them. And the three of us are walking in the meadows, laughing. And he had his arms around my children, and they had their arm around his waist, and I had my arm around his waist too. And when I woke up from that dream several years ago, I often wondered, how is it we walked together and we didn't trip on each other's feet? Like, how did we do it? But when he reminded me of that dream, I realized I was there with them in spirit. And that's how this was a future dream, and that he's got them. And as soon as I remembered that dream and I saw the love and how he has his arms around him, um, I I was okay to release them to him, and I was okay to die. It was okay. He gave me a message that he has them. So I felt like, okay, I can go. And as soon as that feeling lifted of that heaviness, he said, child, you're going to go on a trip. You're going to go on a journey, and you're going to be back to be my ambassador. And when he said that, it was like, oh my God, okay, I can do that. I'm not dying, I'm coming back. So I was like, okay, what do I do? What do you need me to do? And he goes, child, I need you to stop thinking. And I go, okay, that's simple. And boy, it was not easy to stop thinking, because I don't know if anybody knows how to stop thinking. And I tried to stop thinking, but I kept thinking if I was thinking or did I stop thinking, and my brain was just going. And he was like so patient with me. And he just kept saying, just relax, child. And it took a while, but I finally got to the point where I relaxed and I stopped thinking. And then he said, okay, the next step, I need you to shut your eyes. And no matter what happens, do not open your eyes. And I said, okay. He goes, no, child, I need you to realize this. No matter what happens, do not open your eyes. And I said, okay. And I shut my eyes. And as soon as I shut my eyes, a bright light came to the room, a light I've never experienced my whole life. It was a light with the presence. And the presence, I felt it was the presence of God the Father. It was like an amazing power and light, but I wouldn't dare open my eyes. And then right away, the window to my side, on the right side of the room, started shaking, and it felt like an earthquake in my room. And then my heart started palpitating, and started slowly, but then it kept getting stronger and stronger, and it kept pounding really hard. And as it was pounding harder and harder, I got scared. And as soon as I got scared, the whole process shut down. The light went away, the rattling of the window stopped, my heart stopped beating, and I'm lying there with my eyes shut, and I'm going, shoot, I screwed up my death. And he said, no, child, this one you can't screw up. I just need you to relax more. So I took a deep breath, and he said, let's start over. You need to stop thinking again, but I need you to shut your eyes and stop thinking. So I started the process again, shut my eyes, stop thinking. And then he reminded me again, no matter what happens, do not open your eyes. And I said, okay. And The light came back in the room, and it was the same thing, just a bright, amazing, powerful light that you can feel through your eyes. Even your eyes are shut, it didn't matter. And I felt again the presence of God the Father. And the window started moving again, shaking. And then my heart started the palpitation, and then the pounding, and then the pounding started more and more. And it was getting to the point I felt like my heart is just going to explode. Like this is how you die from heart attack. But I did not get scared. I kind of didn't want to shut the process down, and I went through it without any fear. And my heart kept pounding harder and harder, but I was good. I was good. And then it just stopped. The heart stopped pounding, the light went away, and the window stopped rattling. But I didn't stop the process. It just slowly just went away. And then he said, okay, child, the next step, I want you to remember it's only an annoyance. And I said, okay. He said, no, really, it's an annoyance, child. It's only an annoyance. So I said, okay. And immediately I felt a whoosh, like pain down my legs, the bones. It felt like somebody had a sledgehammer and was breaking my bones. It was pain I've never experienced, but he kept saying, child, it's an annoyance. It's going to pass. Child, it's an annoyance. It's an annoyance. And as he's coaching me and telling me it's only an annoyance, I was able to sustain the pain and endure it and not scream. I have fibromyalgia, so my pain level, I feel it right away, but I was able to endure it and concentrate on him just coaching me and telling me it's an annoyance, it will pass. And it passed. And there was no more pain, it stopped. And I was so relieved when I didn't feel any pain. But when the pain went away and I didn't feel the pain, I realized I wasn't feeling anything else. I literally was just not feeling anything from my head to my toes, just numb. And I asked him, I said, am I paralyzed? And he said, yes, child, you are. And I go, no, no, no. And he goes, I'm sorry, child. And he was like, can I move? Can I move my leg? Can I move my toes? He goes, no, child. He said, well, can I try? Can I just try to move my toe? And he said, try, child. And I tried, and I couldn't move anything. And as I'm coming to this realization that now I'm totally paralyzed, I feel Sam watching in the room. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to realize I'm paralyzed now, and he's going to call 911 and rush me to the hospital. But Sam didn't notice anything. He went on his side of the bed and went to sleep. And I just laid there, totally paralyzed, but the Holy Spirit stayed with me and kept comforting me all night, just telling me stories, downloading things in my mind, explaining things and answering questions that I never even I didn't have to ask him again. The questions that I had, you always have questions throughout life. Things like, why is there hunger? Why are there children dying? Why the disasters? Things like that. I didn't ask again, but he knew them and he kept answering me one question at a time. And the way he was answering it, it made a lot of sense. At the time when he was telling me that, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. It made sense. But the interesting thing is none of his answers I remember today. I never remembered afterwards. Like I remember every detail of my encounter except that, except his answers, as if he just gave me answers to pacify me, to just spend the night telling me, keeping me company, but they were not meant for me to remember, so I would never be tempted to share. Like they're mysteries that we all will find out the answers one day. But that night, I had visions. It was just the most beautiful night of my life with the comfort. And it didn't matter that I was paralyzed anymore. That meant nothing. Just having him there, telling me things and showing me things, downloading things in my mind, was just an amazing, amazing encounter. And then in the middle of the night, I felt I needed to go to the bathroom. And I tried to I had forgotten that I was paralyzed and I couldn't move. So I'm telling him, I need to go. I want to go to the bathroom. And he goes, go. And I said, go. He goes, go, child. So I ended up wetting the bed, and it was the water was coming out of my body like, I don't know, it's like flushing a lot of it out. And I thought I was going to drown or I'm going to wake up Sam just by him feeling the water coming his way. But that didn't happen. Then I realized it was daybreak. It was around 6 o'clock or something in the morning. And I felt Sam get up. But he went to the bathroom and then came back to bed. He didn't say anything, continued sleeping. And I think around 8 o'clock, he got up. I could feel him getting up, but this time he turned around. I had my back to him. So he turned me towards him. So I was lying flat now. First, he shook my back and said, Anna, are you up? And I didn't respond, being paralyzed. So then he pulled me down with my back down, and then he opened one eye and I could see his face. Then he let go of the eyelid, and then he opened the other eyelid and I could see his face staring at me. And then he let go. Then he grabbed my arm up and just left it, and it just fell down. And then he grabbed the other arm and left it. So my arm fell down, and I'm going, okay, good. He realized I'm paralyzed. He's gonna call 911. But he gets up and he comes on my side of the bed. He first starts taking my jewelry off, my gold, my diamond ring. And I'm wondering, why is he taking off my jewelry? And then he opened a drawer and brought some medicine and started putting it in my mouth. Now, because I'm drunk, my teeth are locked up like that. So he was putting a pill in my mouth, and he's just grinding it through my teeth to get it in there. And the pill was bitter, and I recognized the taste, and it was a Xanax. And I'm going, why is he giving me Xanax in the morning? Like, I'm already limp, I'm already paralyzed, and didn't make sense. And then he took a mint, like this Tic Tac, and he put it in my mouth. And again, he couldn't put it right in. So he just put it inside here. And I'm going, boy, why? He's putting mint in my mouth, like he should be calling 911. I must be stinking or my smell is like so bad that he has to put a mint in my mouth before calling 911. And then he starts taking off my clothes. So I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna clean me up or dry me, get me into dry clothes before he calls the ambulance. So he takes off my clothes and then he gets on top of the bed and he starts raping me. And at that point, I'm just couldn't I just couldn't understand what the heck was happening. Why is this man raping me when I'm paralyzed like that? Uh, we never even made love like that when I'm half asleep. Like it didn't make any sense. Um, and then he was done. He got up. He went and took a shower. I could hear him in the shower, and I'm lying there just wondering what's going on. Um, then he finishes the shower, and I could hear a higher floor, like he was filling a bathtub. And he came around and he pulled me off the bed, trying to carry me off the bed. And as he's carrying me, he dropped me. As soon as I came off the bed, he dropped me. He couldn't carry me. And he was like, oh my God, I can't carry you. And I'm going, okay, because I'm just puzzled. And I fall naked on the floor to my side, crumbled. And he's trying to get me up. I think he wanted to put me in a bathtub, but he couldn't. And I'm just thinking, this was the first time I really was appreciative and happy that I was not so skinny and I was just chubby. And because I was so confused. And then I could hear Colleen in her bedroom, which was next to us. It was Saturday morning, so I could hear the TV on. She always wakes up, turns on her TV as a teenager. And so he left to take care of her because he heard her too. So he rushed to her. And I heard later from her that he told her, he got her cereal and told her, do not disturb mom. Mom does not want to be disturbed. She's in bed. She took several Xanaxes and once and is depressed because of her brother in Egypt and wants to sleep it off or wants no disturbance. So Colleen respected that, didn't come, didn't try to wake me up. And he comes back and I'm lying there still confused, but I had the comforter with me. So I'm not afraid and I'm not anxious, but I'm just wondering why isn't he calling 911? And then I feel this ice water. He's pouring it all over my body in a very slow fashion and just from head to toe on my body, just pouring it. And my body went in shock and it felt like nails all over my body. And it was a very torturing feeling. And the comforter saying, it's an annoyance, child. It's an annoyance. And he's trying to comfort me through this um, shock and kind of a torture. I can't describe it. But right away, I saw a vision on the floor of a hand next to me, and it was Jesus's hand as they were piercing the nail in his hand with the hammer. And I'm looking at that vision of the hand being pierced. And as soon as I saw that, I was ashamed of my pain was nothing compared to his pain. And I didn't want to complain or anything. And I felt like I can take this. This is nothing compared to the torture Jesus went through. So it kind of made me endure whatever it is this man doing to my body. And then he stopped. I guess the water ran out and he left the room. And I'm lying there relieved that that ice water is gone, but still confused. Why isn't he calling 911? And he comes back And he starts over again. I guess he brought another bottle and he started pouring it on my body. And I went back into shock. And the nails in my body was just like a torturing. Somebody's just torturing you. And then again, I saw Jesus's hand and remembered his pain. And I kept enduring. And the comforter kept telling me, it's an annoyance. It's an annoyance, child. So it was okay, even though it felt like forever and it wasn't passing, but I was enduring it. And then he stopped and he left the room again. And I was relieved lying there, being okay with it and hoping he doesn't come back with more water. But he did come back, but this time it wasn't water. This time he stepped over my body and he bent down and he held my nose tight with his finger and he just shut my nose. And as he shut my nose, I couldn't breathe because now my teeth are clinked. So I couldn't breathe from my mouth. And he's holding my nose shut. And all of a sudden, I went as a reflex, and my mouth just opened up. And as my mouth opened up, it startled him. So he let go and he left the room again. And this is when I remembered my $1 million life insurance. I did not remember to cancel it before the divorce or right after filing the divorce. He was the beneficiary of $500,000 and the kids get the other half. And this is when I realized, okay, he's not going to call 911. And he comes back and he steps over my body again. And he does the same thing. He holds my nose shut and he tries to just keep it stable. And again, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And then suddenly my mouth opens up and I breathe with relief and he lets go. He gets started. He leaves the room again. And I'm going, okay, this is not going to end well. And he comes back. But this time, he steps over again my body. He leans down. He holds my nose shut. But this time, he put his 3 fingers over my mouth to keep my mouth shut. But I remember it was gentle. He wasn't pushing hard. He was just gently putting it over my mouth as he closed my nose. And I couldn't breathe. The air, the lungs, I don't know how to describe suffocation. It is a very bad way to die when you can't breathe and your lungs shut down and he's not removing his hand. And at this point, I'm realizing this is it. I'm dying and there's no way out of this one. And I'm collapsing and the torture of the lack of air is there, but it was okay as I saw at this point, it wasn't the Holy Spirit anymore. I saw Jesus standing there, but I could only see up to his leg, like he had a long robe. It was like an off-white or some color, but I could only see up to his knees covered. And I saw his hand reach to me and he was reaching up to me. And as my chest is collapsing and I couldn't breathe, but I saw him there and I didn't want him to go without me. Like I felt he could stop the process. He could shut the whole process down. He could lift his hand, lift Sam's hand, but I didn't want that. At this point, I wanted to go with him. I wanted to go with Jesus. I didn't want to stay behind. And I kept telling him, I won't let go. I won't let go. I suddenly, I don't know what happened, but he didn't let go. And I just kept on moving, and I wasn't feeling the suffocation anymore, but there was a big relief. And I'm looking back, and my body's on the floor, crumbled naked, and it felt as if I took a heavy coat off and kept on going. And there was no end and no beginning. It wasn't like, oh my, I'm dead now, it's dark, and then there's like, there is no end. You just, your soul keeps on going. And I saw this beautiful, like clouds, white clouds were surrounding me. And slowly they opened up to a beautiful blue colored sky. Color, like, we always see the sky, it's blue, but it was just a bright, beautiful blue. And around the sky, there were these big animals flying. Animals, big, large animals I've never seen before on Earth. And they had just amazing colors that you don't see on Earth. Just beautiful colors, and they're flying just around the sky. And all of a sudden, I found myself, I don't know how I got there, but I was now standing on a meadow, like greenery, like a pasture, just beautiful. And I'm just standing there, and I could see far. Like there was no end, except I could see people running around, preparing for something. And I saw a bride. I could see a bride, but her back was to me. And I could see that she's a bride. And I thought it was me. It was like, because in the Bible it says we become brides of Jesus. So I was curious to go and see who it was. And I wanted to try to come in front of her, but I couldn't. Somehow I missed her. I couldn't get to her. And I ended up going into an inside of a corridor. And it was a long corridor. And I started walking in it. And as I'm walking, to my right, I pass this majestic chair that's there, and I could see somebody in it, but that person, she was covered. I could see it was a lady, but the whole majestic chair and her were covered like a veil that went over her and over the chair. It wasn't just over her, like it just covered the whole thing. And as I'm walking and I'm looking back, trying to figure out, trying to get a glimpse who it is, and I couldn't make her out. I couldn't. So I'm curious, and I see somebody, and I ask him, and I said, "Who is she? Who is she?" And he goes, "She's the purest of all." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I just kept on going. And at the end of the hall, there was a door. And at the door, there was a body of light standing there. And immediately I recognized it was my mother. And she didn't have any features. She was just a body of light, but we recognized each other. I knew who she was. I knew this was my mother. And I approached her. We didn't hug. But it was just, I don't know. She took me, and we walked down the hallway. We kept like going and walking or floating. I don't know what it was. Obviously, we didn't have legs, but we just kept on going. And then I saw my sister Nadia come out, and she was another body of light, but she was taller than my mom. My mom was a little bit shorter. And it was such a joy to see Nadia. uh, because Nadia had committed suicide when she was 35. And I always wondered where she was. And because church tells us that people who commit suicide, it's an act of murder and you go to hell. So I always wondered, and I knew she was in a deep depression and she actually wanted to just go see dad, be with God. But I didn't know if she had made it there. And seeing her there just was the best thing ever. Just amazing. And I kept on walking with Nadia. I think we left mom behind, and I'm walking or going with her. And she took me to a room, and I am just the joy seeing her, the joy being there. It's just that joy was so overwhelming that I could not contain it. I didn't know what to do with it. So now I started complaining to her, and I'm going, Nadia, I don't know what to do. It's too much. It's just too much for me. I don't know what to do with it. And she just looked at me and she said, Anna, with Jesus, it keeps on getting better. And I'm going, it can't get better than this. Like it's too much already. So how? And here I am, stupidly enough, complaining about overwhelming joy that we never encounter on earth. I'm used to encountering overwhelming stress, overwhelming pressure, never overwhelming joy. And I never thought I would ever complain from that. But here I am complaining. So then she walks me out. We walk out back to the hallway where mom was. And now I see my father. And he's a body of light. Again, a little bit taller than my dad, my mom. And seeing my father there was just, again, like she said, over more joy. The joy just kept on going. My father had been killed by a car accident when I was 22, and it was a horrible car accident. It was a collision on like face to face, like, and it was a big 18-wheeler that just crushed his car and his driver. And it always broke my heart. And every time I think about him and I think of what he had gone through the last few minutes seeing that truck, like I always kind of reliving it and feeling the pain. But seeing him in heaven was just amazing. And as we're standing there and we're communicating, and I have no idea how, we're not talking, but we're communicating together. And I'm standing with the three of them. And then Nadia says, let's just hurry. We have a banquet with Jesus. And I'm going, what? A banquet, what? Come again? Like, I couldn't absorb the notion. Like, it's just so casual. There's a banquet with Jesus. And so they started leaving, and somehow I didn't leave with them. I didn't follow them. And I ended up going into another room. And at the end of that room, there was a person that I could see his body. It wasn't like the body of light that I saw with my family. I recognized him, and he was the ex-pope, they call him late pope or something, that died, the Coptic Orthodox Pope, Pope Kyrillos, who had died in the 60s and was such a sweet, humble, kind, down to earth, very spiritual man. And he's there at the end of the room. And I remember seeing he had white hair, very old, like, and he didn't have much of it. I felt like he was just, he lost a lot of hair. And he's looking at me, and I'm standing there, and he goes, where have you been, child? Where have you been? And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking like, is he talking to me? Yeah. Well, I've been going to the Calvary Church because I had stopped going to the Coptic Church because when I married Sam, Sam was Muslim, and Christians, it's not acceptable to marry a Muslim in the Coptic Church. So I left the Coptic Church, of course. And I only had done that after marrying a Christian for so long who treated me like hell. So I guess the Muslim at that time, it didn't matter what religion he was kind to me. And that's how I ended up with Sam. Anyway, I I said, I've been going to Calvary. And he said, why, child? Why? And, and then I said, because I didn't feel much love and compassion in the Coptic Church. Again, of course, I kind of betrayed my church, so I don't blame them. But his response to me was, child, like when I said I couldn't find compassion and love, he said, what's your name, child? And I looked at him and I said, my name in Egyptian. So Anna Christina is my pen name because I changed all the names in my book and everything to protect my kids and not have any defamation issues and to be able to say the story as honestly as I can. So I told him my Egyptian name, and my Egyptian name means compassion. And because when he asked me, he goes, what is your name? And I said my name. He goes, you're looking for compassion outside, and this is what we need. You are what we need, child. Hurry, hurry, child. There is no time. Hurry, hurry. And he was kicking me out. And I felt he was kicking me out and rushing me out. And I got rushed out. And as I'm rushing out, I come across the chair, that majestic chair, and now there is no one in it, but you see the veil. So I asked somebody, I said, where did she go? Where did she go? And they go, she's running an errand. And I'm going, oh, okay. I didn't realize they can run errands, but I was just okay. And I'm being rushed out. And as I'm rushed, a face starts revealing himself. And that face was Jesus's face. And it was the whole face. It wasn't his body, it was the face. And it was being revealed slowly. Like, you see his magnificent light. And as his eyes was being revealed, and then his nose slowly was being revealed. And I remember his nose, it was taking a long time to reveal his nose. And stupidly, me in my mind, I stereotype and I say, you're Jewish, aren't you? Because he had a very long nose. And he just smiled. And I saw his whole face. And his face, as majestic as it was with the light, it was not the face that I had envisioned or grew up with watching Jesus of Nazareth, the movie Jesus of Nazareth, with the blue eyes and the fair skin. And he was not. He was not. He was more olive skin. He was more Middle Eastern looking or Jewish looking at the time. Was not very handsome, but was not ugly, but he was not handsome. And I'm looking, and as he's revealing, my brain is going, oh my God, like I'm thinking that he's not handsome, but I'm so ashamed at myself of thinking that because I know he can read my thoughts and I don't want to hurt his feelings. And I'm trying to stop that thought in my mind, just so not to offend him. And then I found myself after seeing him, suddenly I was back seeing the world. I was, this whole thing happened in California, so in Irvine, and I was watching over the freeway right in Irvine, where we have the 5 freeway and the 405 intersect, and we call them the Y. And I'm watching that freeway and I'm watching the traffic and noticing how dry the world is compared to that and to where I was. It was just a dry sight. And then I found myself in my room, in my bedroom, and I could see Sam on the bed. And at that point, he had brought my body up on the bed. He managed to carry it somehow. And I was still naked, but he's holding me and he's lying there. And I couldn't handle the fact that he's touching me. And as soon as I went back in my body, I jumped. I had to jump right out of his arm. And I stood at the head of the bed. I just stood there looking at him naked, didn't matter. And the look on this man's face is priceless, amazing, priceless. And I couldn't speak, but I tried to get him out. I was trying to get him out of the house. So much happened afterwards that it is so hard to go through it all. But when you read about it, you think this happened in a third world country, the events that happened afterwards, and not in California or the States. Unfortunately, it's just crazy what happens afterwards. But the encounter with the Holy Spirit and what happened as I went to the other side was so beautiful that it did not matter what was happening to my body. It did not matter the betrayal or anything. The encounter was so loving that it changed my life dramatically. And I don't carry, I learned to forgive him. And I forgive him not because I like him. I forgive him because he's not worth it that I carry that load with me. Because when you don't forgive, you carry a load and you're angry and he's not worth it. He's not a part of my life. He's gone. And he will be faced with whatever, that's between him and God. But I'm not going to carry that load. That encounter was so amazing that if I had to go through this again, I would do it if I were to encounter that. It didn't matter what happened. And I think like a message that I give to parents who lost a loved one, a child or something, to a horrific method of death. Most of these parents live their life reliving the anguish of their child, the last moments. They just like I did with my father, just reliving that anguish and thinking their child was scared, was tortured, the pain. They weren't there for him or her. And that just kills them. They live in terror and guilt. And I want them to know that their child was not anxious, was not scared, was comforted by a beautiful being that comforted them during whatever horrific circumstances they went through. And I say that with a lot of trust that is the fact, because why would that comfort come to me? And who am I for God to give me that comfort? And he won't give that comfort to a child? Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm nothing. I'm an ordinary person. So it's not like I was Miss Holy, and he came to me to save me or to get me through it. No, he's a comforter. He's a true comforter. And he does not like us to be victimized. And he was there. I believe that, what we call the spirit of death or the spirit of darkness, it's actually the spirit of light. It's when that spirit comes, and I believe we're all going to encounter that spirit as we die. He's going to reveal himself and just be with us until the end. He's not on the other side. It was just, that's the comforter. Death, there's nothing to fear in death. Death, oh my God, Ed, death is such an amazing encounter. It's beyond the mind.